The cannabis business is still in its infancy stage, which means anything is possible for investors and entrepreneurs, but predicting the future requires actionable intelligence and careful analysis. Giadha De Carcer, the founder and CEO of New Frontier Financials, is taking up the monumental task of making sense of the business of weed. So I have heard your business referred to as the Bloomberg of weed. What is it exactly that New Frontier does, and what kind of client base is your service catering to?
Sure, and I do love it when I hear that, so that means we're doing something right. So what we do is we're the big data shop in cannabis industry. Most mature markets have a centralized repository of data, which legislators, operators, and investors alike need to make sound decisions. So ultimately, that's what we do. The industry right now has pockets of data, fragmented data basically, and it's not vetted, and the data is not normalized, so it certainly is not centralized. What we do is we bring the infrastructure necessary to ingest all of the pockets of data and then tag it and make it searchable, and then centralize it obviously, and then turn it into actionable intelligence to operators, investors, and legislators. So we're sort of a risk management tool with a big data underlay.
Okay, so you talked about centralizing the data that's out there. Where are you getting the data from, and how are you approaching the standardization of it?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, the data is fragmented and segmented across the nation, and even within nations, it's sort of really pockets from cultivators, pockets from retailers. The state has some data. So we have strategic partnerships with consortiums of wholesalers as well as retailers. We also get data straight from the state, to the extent that it is available. And we also have proprietary solutions that allow us to ingest it in a streamlined and automated fashion. So in fact, we're very soon launching Equio, which is our risk management tool. And one of the things with it is our CRM solution. And so via the CRM, when the operators use it, they upload their data so that the data can make sense to them. And it also aggregates it with the larger outlay of data, which then comes to us.
You have a varied background in emerging markets, startup businesses. You've worked in defense, banking, telecommunications. How did you come to cannabis? Was there a passion for it in particular, or did you just see it as a business opportunity?
I must admit that it was sort of accidental. About a year ago, I was in between gigs, for lack of a better term. This is my fourth company, so and I have been a CEO for hire, and I was literally just looking for the next opportunity. And someone called me from Maryland asking me to review a business plan because Maryland was putting out 10 cultivation licenses. I didn't know anything about the industry at all. But I did do what I usually do when I look at a business opportunity. I went online and I tried to buy an industry report, and I couldn't find one. And then I tried to look for market research, and I couldn't find any. I then went on to talk to my network, asking them to see where was the data for this booming industry. No one could answer it. And so I just literally just found a massive opportunity in an industry that was growing at double digits every year. So that's how I came to cannabis.
So why do you think that is that this kind of service didn't exist before? Is it because people weren't taking cannabis seriously as an industry?
I think that's exactly right. I think you nailed it. I mean, just a year ago, when I went to my first conference in Houston and I told folks that I was launching a big data play in cannabis, the people from the industry themselves laughed at me. They said, what do we need big data for? We're making millions of dollars just selling weed. What are you talking about? So there was a lot of ignorance, I want to say, or maybe lack of information about where this industry was and where it was going. So on the operator side, what you see in cannabis is a lot of the folks that are currently cultivating may have been cultivating way before it was legalized. So they may not necessarily be sophisticated Wall Street folks that go, at the Standard & Poor's or look for Reuters data. And then on the banking side, the Bloombergs of the world and the Reuters and the SNLs, well, they see this industry as having a bit of a stigma. Some think it's immoral. So they're not willing to risk their current client base to enter an industry that is still federally illegal. So basically there was a disconnect on the operating side, and there was a lack of interest on the financial side.